It has been a while, and to make up, I have 4 very, 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 very loved books to bring to you today. All of them are by Australian authors, so enjoy these. The first one for today is a debut coming out in early August, and it's by Suzanne. It's called The Golden Sister. I really enjoyed this. Great debut fiction, Australian set, dealing with a young woman called Lily, who we feel is, and it's explicitly said, is quite precarious. She is grieving, or her life has been upended by the death of her twin sister, and she works in real estate, which is not a very important thing. It's one of the areas where the author is allowed to explore a lot of humour, because this is a story of, you know, coming to terms with loss, coming to terms with a sort of semi-alcoholic mother who seemed to always have loved the other sister more than Lily. The other sister was called Honey, so therefore the Golden Sister. With the added sort of interesting feature that said sister had died of a drug overdose, and her body had been found by a homeless man called Pete. So we have a setup here for doing lots of things, and what I really liked about this story was the author's handling of what could have become super tropey, super sort of saccharine. We are dealing with trauma, but she manages to lift us off the kind of the too bleak without mollycoddling us as readers, and doesn't necessarily do what you might think this book might have set itself up to do. It's intelligent, smart, sassy writing in places where we've sort of got, you know, a bit of the office banter and office shenanigans going on. But we are very much centred on how Lily connects with Pete and how she is trying to reconcile her feelings about this dead sister who she had very much loved, but how she thinks her mother views her as inferior, and how the mother kind of negotiates her own life with the help of a tiny little chihuahua who was very adorable and, you know, not kind of grumpy adorable. But I think the focus is also on Pete and their relationship. Pete has his own trauma. He lives on the streets. He hasn't seen his son in a very long time, and you will also get his backstory. Super loved that we use, the dangerous space of water to ultimately become a sort of a safe space, a learning space, and a bonding space. Really clever writing. Total love for that one. Great, great debut. The second one up is Katherine Brabon's Cure. This is just perfection. Perfection. It's a kind of writing that I personally really love. So the story is a mother and daughter. Both suffer from chronic illness. And what Brabon is looking at is the stories we tell ourselves about our illness, the stories that we inherit about illness, and the stories about cure or trying things to make living with chronic illness better, or making the illness go away. And Brabon very cleverly sort of parallels the mother Vera and the daughter Thea, and the experiences both women have, which are they overlap and they're eerily similar, but it's the same chronic illness. But you sort of feel this replay of what the mother had experienced, Vera, when she was a teenager, and this, you know, illness had come on, and how she was taken back to Italy, and was looking for this among various cures, a healer. And this is suggested by Vera for Thea when Thea hits 16, and the same story unfolds. And then how Vera chronicles her journey of illness and her daughter's journey of illness, and how Thea herself sort of says what it must have been like for her mother. So this is direction of forward and backward between who lives what, who feels what thing, how are we similar, how are we different, and how do we write the story of being well or being chronically unwell. It's set for the most part in Italy, in that gorgeous, distilled, very contemplative prose. This book is not so much about plot as it is about creating that atmosphere, that kind of space, that you're liminal space, that you're kind of pushed out into, or that's what Brabon helps us or to understand or makes us feel, is that you're never on in the limelight. You're almost always, you feel you're on. It's gauzy, you're kind of never there, or you are, but it's at times or at places where you're kind of on the edges. It's atmospherically brilliant. Totally loved it. We are dealing with, all of those elements of chronic illness, but it's always sort of couched in this lyrical, the sort of lapping waves of story. It was just divine. Loved that one. As I said, I felt it was wistful, gauzy. It's very perfect writing. A complete change of pace now with Alli Parker's Until the Red Leaves Fall. And this, Alli Parker wrote At the Foot of the Cherry Tree, chronicling the Australian-Japanese, it was partly, she says, a family story of coming to Australia as a war bride. We are in the same kind of territory of Australian-Japanese history. Where the story starts in 1957 in Melbourne. And Emmy Darling is the wife of playwright Sebastian Darling. And she's hiding the fact of her Japanese origin because it's not entirely visible. And I won't go into the whole story, but at some point, a very well-known patron, well, not even a patron, the actress, Virginia Van Bell, who runs the Bellevue Theatre in Melbourne, commissions a play which Emmy is to write for her. And the circumstances of this make a great read, that she's eventually going to write the story of internment of Japanese Australians in Australia, and the story behind that, which was not a very well-known story in the 1950s, and there was still anti-Japanese, post-World War sentiment, and Alli Parker is looking into this. She has written a gloriously vital, vibrant story. It's incredibly visual, and with this sort of pacey, I feel that she's grabbed our feelings very early. We love Emmy very early, and she sends us into this kind of world of make-believe to kind of keep us on this kind of galloping roller coaster of a story, which has it has just about everything in it. I mean, there's romance, there's sort of love, betrayal. There's Emmy's family who are Japanese. There's how family loyalty is important, what they went through in the internment camps, and then you have the sort of the suspense of what is the story that Emmy is writing for the theatre, and how does that get warped, and will it get warped, and who's going to tell that story? So we're having, at the same time as this kind of roller coaster of a story, we also have this serious consideration, really, of racism, casual or explicit, of, I suppose you'd say, the trauma of what people went through. We're looking at the prohibition and the sort of public sentiment towards divorce, towards gay or lesbian relationships. There's a lovely cast there, and a fabulous Isadora who you sort of go, wow. And there's a character and a half. Lovely setup for romance. And you also have this this feeling of, well, not just looking at the racism, but also looking at it's art. Who tells the story? What's the truth? Who's allowed to tell it? And it's sort of art and integrity. I just thought it was superb, and what a follow-up to At the Foot of the Cherry Tree. She'll just go from strength to strength, believe you me. Now, I'd started this little video thinking I was just going to do 3 books, and I picked up a novel by Fiona McFarlane, who I had read and very much enjoyed before, and I'd seen that Highway 13 had won several awards and had been shortlisted for the Miles Franklin. It won the Victorian Premier's Award this year and was shortlisted for, I have to look at my notes because these things I do not keep in mind, also shortlisted for the Age Book of the Year and the Miles Franklin. So we have you know, we're in the hands of a seriously good writer. Highway 13 is about the most unusual piece of fiction that I have read in a long time in terms of its form. I've seen people talk about it as short stories, and I very much got that sort of short story feel, but for me it read entirely and sort of you know, with integrity as a novel. Absolutely superb. So it is, she wanders into the territory of a 1990s serial killer in Murder Town, up on a highway which is bordered by forest. And this, based on a true story, and this serial killer would pick up backpackers or hitchhikers and then, you know, do them in the forest and bury them. And the way this novel is constructed, it's through several chapters. Each of them actually sits as a short story, but through a time from 1995, I think, through to actually 2028. And basically the center of it is our main character, Paul Bega, who was the serial killer. And spiraling out from that are sort of a cast of characters who in some way have a connection to either any of the characters that he directly interacted with, or who saw something, or who lived on the same street, or who married someone in the family, or who was connected to somebody who was. So she uses this sort of interconnectedness of the different people throughout time and people's perspectives from, you know, 2028. It's a perspective of people looking back at serial killers through a podcast. So you have all sorts of forms and stories. And I thought it was utterly brilliant. I suppose each time she starts a new story and you're in Rome, or you're in Florida, you're in and you're in the town, or in the nearest town, or in, you know, someone who'd hosted someone who had been the sister of, or the actual person who later got murdered. She sort of throws her voice into all of these characters, and your brain just goes, how did she do that? You've got to read it. It's an absolutely stunning piece of fiction. That's it. I'm going to shut up now. I hope you enjoyed that. There will be more sooner or later. And if you liked this, you could sort of, you know, like and subscribe if you're so inclined. Bye for now.